What if I told you that the products you buy, the websites you visit, and even the news you read are all controlled by just a handful of powerful companies? This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a hidden truth about our modern world that most people never notice. Today, we're peeling back the curtain to reveal how a few corporations quietly gain control over entire industries, shaping your choices without you even realizing it. So before we get started, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more mind-blowing breakdowns. 1. A few companies control most products we use. Most people think there are hundreds of different brands competing with each other. But if you look closely, you'll see that the same few big companies actually own many of the brands we use every day. For example, Nestle, PepsiCo, Unilever, and Coca-Cola own dozens of snack, drink, and food brands. When you go to a grocery store and see 10 different kinds of cereal, it might look like you have lots of choices. But in reality, they often come from the same parent company. This kind of control means just a few corporations dominate what we eat, drink, and use at home. They decide the pricing, ingredients, packaging, and even what gets advertised. This gives them enormous power over our daily lives, and most people don't even realize it. The branding makes things look separate and competitive, but behind the scenes, it's all connected. 2. Big tech dominates online life. Today, a small number of tech giants control almost everything we do online. Google controls search, YouTube, email, and online ads. Facebook, Meta, controls social platforms like Instagram and WhatsApp. Apple controls the App Store and a huge part of mobile phone access. Amazon dominates online shopping and cloud storage. These companies are like invisible rulers of the internet. This dominance means they have the power to decide what we see, what we don't, and how we interact with the world. They collect massive amounts of data and influence our choices without us noticing. If one of these companies changes a rule or removes an app, millions of people are affected. The internet might feel open, but it's mostly controlled by just a few powerful players. 3. Small businesses are dying out. Small businesses used to be the backbone of local communities. Your neighborhood bakery, tailor, hardware store, or bookstore. But today, many of them are shutting down because they can't compete with the low prices, massive selection, and fast delivery of giants like Amazon or Walmart. These big players can afford to sell cheap and offer convenience that small businesses just can't match. As these local shops disappear, our towns and cities lose a personal touch. Jobs go with them, and wealth gets pulled away from communities and into the hands of a few large corporations. When only a few companies remain, they can raise prices over time or offer fewer options, and customers have nowhere else to go. It's a quiet but powerful shift in how we live. 4. Mergers keep shrinking competition. Big companies often grow by merging with or buying out their competitors. When two major airlines, tech firms, or supermarkets join together, competition disappears. What used to be 5 different companies turns into 2 or 3, or sometimes just one dominant player. These moves are often allowed by governments, even though they reduce consumer choice. Each time a merger happens, the market becomes more concentrated. This means fewer voices in the market, fewer innovations, and less pressure to keep prices fair. Customers end up with fewer choices and worse service. The idea of a free market fades when only a few companies are left to decide what we get and how much we pay. 5. Media is owned by a few giants. We get most of our news, entertainment, and information from TV, newspapers, websites, and streaming platforms. But surprisingly, most of these media outlets are owned by just a few giant companies like Disney, Comcast, Warner Bros., and News Corp. They control what stories are told, which movies are made, and even how news is framed. When only a few companies decide what gets published or aired, it affects how people think. It's easier to push certain narratives and harder for smaller voices to be heard. It's not just about entertainment, it shapes politics, opinions, and public behavior. When media ownership is so concentrated, we get the illusion of choice, but not real diversity of thought. 6. Farmers rely on a few buyers. In agriculture, most farmers don't sell their crops or meat directly to customers. Instead, they sell to large corporations that dominate food processing and distribution. A handful of companies buy up the majority of corn, wheat, meat, and dairy. This puts farmers in a tough spot. They have to accept whatever price these companies offer because there are no better options. This power imbalance makes it hard for farmers to make profits or improve their living standards. At the same time, those big corporations can control food prices in stores, reduce quality, or increase packaging to cut costs. The control over food supply gives these companies massive power over both producers and consumers, and yet we hardly notice. 7. Banking is concentrated. In the financial world, a small number of banks control the majority of assets and loans. Banks like JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Citigroup hold trillions of dollars in deposits and investments. Smaller local banks exist, but they are often overshadowed or bought out by the big players. This concentration means just a few institutions hold a massive share of financial power. When these big banks make mistakes, like during the 2008 financial crisis, the entire economy suffers. Governments bail them out because they're too big to fail. Meanwhile, small banks and individuals don't get the same treatment. A few large banks get to set terms for mortgages, business loans, and interest rates, which affects millions of people's lives. 8. Worker power is weaker, expanded. Back in the day, workers had more freedom and power in the job market. There were lots of different companies in every industry, from factories and farms to offices and services. So if an employer didn't treat their workers fairly, people could often find a better job somewhere else. This gave employees bargaining power. They could negotiate for better wages, safer working conditions, and even request benefits like paid leave or healthcare. If things didn't improve, they had the choice to quit and move on. This competition between employers helped keep treatment fair and pushed companies to offer better environments to attract good workers. But now, things have changed. As industries have become more concentrated, with fewer companies controlling more of the market, workers are losing their power. In many towns or sectors, you might only have one or two big employers. That means if those companies offer low pay or poor conditions, workers don't have many other places to go. 9. Prices can be manipulated, expanded. In a truly competitive economy, companies fight for customers by offering better prices, higher quality, or unique services. If one business tries to overcharge, people can simply go to a cheaper competitor. That's how fair pricing works. Supply and demand, balanced by market competition. But when a few large companies dominate an entire industry, they can set high prices without fear of losing customers. Why? Because they know customers have nowhere else to go. For example, if just 3 companies control most internet service in a country, they can all quietly agree to raise prices. Even if customers are unhappy, switching won't help because the other providers will charge about the same. This kind of price control isn't always obvious. It doesn't look like a scam. It looks like standard pricing. But in reality, it's a hidden monopoly effect. Every day, people pay more for basic needs like internet, electricity, groceries, medicine, or flights, not because these things got more expensive to produce, but because the companies controlling them want higher profits. 10. We don't see it because branding hides it. One of the sneakiest parts of economic concentration is that most people don't even realize it's happening. Companies use clever branding to make it seem like there are lots of options. For example, you might think Dove and Axe are competing products, but they're both owned by Unilever. The same goes for dozens of cereals, clothes, apps, and drinks. Because of this, we feel like we're making choices, when in reality we're just choosing between different brands owned by the same giant company. This illusion keeps people unaware of how powerful these corporations really are. If more people knew how concentrated things were, there might be more pressure for change, but the branding keeps it all hidden in plain sight. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comments section below. Before you go, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.